Yo, this is like this beautiful triangle connecting us to St. Jamal. You know, the kind that makes music the most delicate part of the symphony, and life is writing songs inside of it, and all the complexities that come with that life and time and movement, this magnificent movement, which means it's constantly changing shape. And so this triangle of life could sometimes become a square, which now has four sides, kind of like a rhombus or a trapezoid, and it can stretch and pull, and it can even become a circle, and it can turn and spin and sit sideways and get all upside down, and it moves like a wheel through time, and it rolls and it waits for nobody and nothing. It's all unpredictable, and life just keeps moving, and things just keep happening, and everything happens for a reason. And so something just happened. Let's talk about why you make art. Like why you do the work that is required to make any kind of art, whether it be filmmaking, theater work, dance, painting, whatever you do, whatever your thing is, music. Like, why do you do it? What's behind it? Why do you spend all those hours practicing? Why do you spend all that time learning how to use equipment, if that's your thing? Why do you spend time with movement and take care of your body? And why do you spend so much time writing, collaborating? Why do you invest so much of your life into making art? And I'm gonna even include YouTube videos. You know, like, why do you spend all the time? Why do you invest in equipment? And if you don't invest in equipment, why do you invest in time? Why do you invest in thinking about it even? You know, why do you invest in setting it up? You know, like trying to get good composition, make it look, you know, interesting for people. Why do you do that? Even if you don't think about that, why do you even take moments out of your life to sit in your car and record yourself? Why do you come up with something that you want to share with people? Why do you do that? Why do you want an audience? Do you make art just for yourself? I mean, I was once teaching a writing workshop, and I asked that question. You know, I was like, why do you make art? And somebody said to me, why does it have to be about anything? You know, why can't it just be, like, if it's a poem, why can't it just be a bunch of words that have no meaning, that don't, you know, have any kind of intention at all, just an expression, a creative expression? And, you know, some people would say, okay, cool, anything goes, you know, anything goes. But I was like, I don't really understand that. Like, I don't understand why you would spend even 1 second of your life doing something like that when you have the opportunity to do something that elevates you and perhaps other people around you. I mean, the fact is, art, in my opinion, is to connect with people. I really think that's what it's for. I think art, like theater, is the oldest form of art, really. I mean, other than probably like hieroglyphics and, you know, creating images on the wall of a cave. But theater, when society started, you know, when people started to create societies and create culture, theater was so important, where people would go into a town square and tell stories. And it was to bring a community together, and it was for people to reflect upon things or consider things or to warn people about things, to discuss the happenings of the day. Like, it was all about community. It was all about connection. It was all about reaching out and coming together. And that, you know, for me, that's what I love about art. You know, in the last video that I posted, or I don't know when I'm going to post this one, but within the last few videos, when I posted about the new Panasonic camera, the S1R Mark II. First of all, I knew I was going to get more views than I generally get, because I could just put the name of that camera in the title and in my thumbnail, and people were going to watch that video. But I found it really interesting that, first of all, the main crux of that video to me, you know, what was important to me, what I wanted to express, and I think I was pretty clear if you actually watched the video, was talking about how people treat one another on YouTube. And I pointed out some treatment of, you know, a pretty well-known YouTuber named Gerald Undone, who's kind of like the king of the camera world in terms of specs, and he's brilliant. He's a genius. When I first started learning about cameras, I watched his videos, and honestly, at first, he might as well have been speaking Mandarin. Like, I had no idea what he was talking about. But I thought to myself, if I keep listening, and if I research what he's saying, and if I take my camera out and I practice every day, and if I just keep doing this, eventually I'm going to get it, and I'm going to get something out of these videos. And it happened. Like, all of a sudden, I just started to understand what he was saying, because I was applying it every day. And I was just trying, you know, and I was doing other research and going out and reading and watching other videos and just immersing myself in this journey of learning how to use a camera properly so that I could enable myself to get these stories out of my head. At the time, theater was completely shut down. It was the pandemic. I couldn't do what I had been doing for like over a decade, every day of my life. I couldn't do it. It was shut down. I mean, I could do it, but I could basically do it for myself. And you see, that's what I'm saying. I don't do it for myself. When I write a play, and then I memorize that play. And then I start to work out how to get it up on its feet. Then I get really excited because I'm like, I've done all this work now just to get into a theater and share it with people. And that's why I couldn't even wait to get into a theater, so I would start to develop the work out in the streets. And people would inevitably come because, you know, they'd see some crazy guy talking to himself in the park or on a street corner or just walking up and down the, you know, walking across the Brooklyn Bridge or walking up and down the Grand Concourse in the Bronx or up and down Amsterdam Avenue or St. Nicholas in Manhattan or around the Village or on Flatbush Avenue in Brooklyn or wherever. DeKalb, Fort Greene Park, Asbury Park, New Jersey, eventually Chicago, Denver, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Seattle, London, like everywhere. I just was like craving getting with people. And then when I finally learned how to use the camera and I started to make movies, all I wanted to do was share that work. So I got into all these festivals and people were watching my movies and they were commenting and I was having these exchanges on the internet. And then eventually my second film, we got to see it at Cinema Village, this big, beautiful theater in New York City, and got to see it on the big screen around other people in person, and then do a Q&A, and it was amazing. You see, we make art to connect with people. You make art to build community. You make art to talk about things that might be difficult to talk about, but you're creating them in this kind of container of beautifulness that people can take, as opposed to, like right now is a perfect example where, you know, I feel like my body is filled with so much toxic material from watching the news and listening to what's been happening in this country and around the world and understanding the repercussions of what's going on. It's literally making me sick. And I'm trying to think, like, what can art do at this time? You know, because in some ways it seems so trite and stupid. Like, what am I going to do, write a play or make a movie about this? But I started to realize that, you know, I don't have to make a movie about this. I don't have to write a play about what's happening. I can just create something beautiful, something human, something that people can relate to. You know, something about relationships, something about anything that resonates with people. And it doesn't have to specifically be about what's going on in the world right now. But what I found really interesting today was I got a bunch of comments on that video that were really quite negative. And one guy actually mocked me because the crux of my video was to, you know, maybe take a moment to be kind to one another, to, you know, not be an asshole over the internet. You know, don't leave comments that you would never say to somebody to their face in person. And I don't mean it like a confrontational kind of way, like, yo, you would never say that to my face, you know, like I'm not even bringing that kind of energy. I'm just saying, don't treat people in a way on the internet any differently than you would treat them in person. Energy is real. When you feel somebody and you're in their presence, unless you're a sociopath, you're going to consider what you say and how you say it, and because you're dealing with another human being and you could feel one another. That's a very real thing. And so some guy today was like, oh, you can't police people, and, you know, not everybody wants to be nice. And I'm like, really? Not everybody wants to be nice? I often think about, and I mention this in a lot of my videos, that a friend of mine who I respect greatly, who's an amazing artist, poet laureate of San Francisco. My friend Tongo Eisen Martin, he once said to me, you know, in order to be a better artist, I realized that I had to be a better person. And when he said that to me, I felt like, wow, he's talking about me. Like, I have to be a better person to be a better artist. Because that's what being an artist is. Being an artist is being an empath. Being an artist is somebody who's paying attention, somebody who's listening, somebody who's watching, somebody who doesn't think it's all about them. Somebody who understands that they're just a small part of this gigantic thing, like a speck of sand in this ocean of humanity. To really understand that so that you can create something universal. And you know, I know that it's, you know, a good idea to have a target audience and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, I think everybody would love for their work to be felt by everyone. Everybody. Gender, religion, race, age, anything, culture. Like, who wouldn't want their work to be appreciated by everybody on the planet Earth? So I think during this time, it's important now more than ever to create art, you know, from the perspective of bringing people together, you know, of reaching out to people, of connecting, of being a part of something greater than just yourself, more than just yourself. I think that's really important, you know, to think that you're contributing, you know, not impressing or whatever. You're not trying to like put it on somebody. You're making an offering to people. I think that's really important. And you know, a lot of people might think that's corny or something like that. You know, when people come at me in that way on the internet, I just think, I don't know where they're from or how they were brought up or whatever, but where I was brought up, you know, in and around New York City, you have a pretty healthy respect for everybody around you. In other words, you have no idea what somebody is like, what they've been through, what they're capable of. Like, you should have a healthy respect for everybody, because you never know what you're coming up against or coming across or what happened to that person in that day or in that moment, maybe just before they saw you or whatever. But also, I think it teaches you to be empathetic, to be kind, to be compassionate, because you have to step back for a second and just pay attention, and you realize it ain't all about you, like I said. You know, it's easy to judge people, it's easy to take shots at people, it's easy to be, you know, pissed off and mean and all that kind of stuff. To me, that's like fake tough guy kind of stuff, or it's just negativity, you know, it's like, what's the point? You know, a lot of this stuff about, you know, when the Panasonic S9 came out, for anybody who's from the camera, you know, world, there was a lot of controversy around that camera. Now there's controversy around this new camera that just came out, the Panasonic S1R Mark II. There's like this controversy because I guess it's not living up to the expectations. You know, everybody wants it to be perfect, to be able to do anything in any scenario, to be better than anything ever made. I mean, I'm here to tell you, ain't nothing ever going to be perfect. Ain't nothing ever going to be able to do everything for everybody. You know, just like ain't nobody, you know, nobody is for everybody. You understand what I'm saying? We're all different. And, you know, from a technical point of view, now if I could speak about cameras for a second, like, I know filmmaking and I think photography too. Like, I'm not really a photographer. I mean, I do photography, but I am a filmmaker when it comes to working with a camera. And filmmaking is all about solving problems, like trying to figure things out. Like, inevitably, when you're trying to make a movie, whether it be a YouTube video or a feature film, everything in between, you're going to run into a lot of problems. No project ever has worked out exactly as planned from the beginning. That's one of the most beautiful parts of filmmaking, figuring it out, making it work. We don't have the focal lengths we need. We don't have a fast enough aperture lens right now. We got to figure this out. You know, you'll figure it out. This camera doesn't do everything that I want it to do. Well, figure it out. It's got to crop at 4K 60. Well, move back. Well, I absolutely cannot do this shot with this camera. Well, then figure out another shot. Not everything is going to serve you. It's like relationships. No one person is going to give you everything that you want in people. You know, like you're looking for the perfect partner in a relationship. It's never going to happen. You're never going to find that person. You got to work things out. That's what being alive is about. You know, we're all living, breathing organisms. We're all different. We all have different desires and different perspectives. We see the world differently. We hear things differently. We perceive things differently. We receive things differently. And that's a beautiful thing. So, why do you make art? You make art to connect. You make art to understand everything around you a little bit better. You make art to learn. You make art to contribute. You make art to make people happy. You make art to make people think. You make art to disrupt people, to disturb people, to get people out of the box, out of their box, out of their comfort zone. That's why you make art. You make art to inspire people. You make art to make people feel good. You make art to make people pause for a second and go, yo, this is something that needs to be paid attention to. You might not want to pay attention to it right now, but it's happening and it ain't all about you. That's why we make art. So, I don't know. I've been thinking about it a lot lately because, it feels like the world is on fire right now. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will be like, they'll want to argue with me immediately because they know I'm talking about the politics of the day. But look, from my perception, the world is on fire right now. There's a lot of horrible stuff happening. I happen to know I know a few people who work for USAID, the organization that this administration just completely obliterated and gutted. And so I happen to know through people personally that now people are dying as a result of that. Literally, people are starving to death. People with AIDS, people with all kinds of stuff are literally dying now because of that. That's just one example, Today I was listening to the radio and listening to some of these business owners up at the Canadian border, and talking about these tariffs and how it's affecting business from the United States to Canada. And he was saying, we've been like best friends with the United States forever. But what's happening right now is going to cause irreparable harm to the relationships that we've developed with Canada and Mexico too, I'm sure. So, of course, you could argue with me however you feel about that, however you look at it or whatever. You might be right, whatever, but that's a fact that a business owner said with his own words, who was not, I guess if you're crazy, you could say, oh, he was hired to do that. Like some people say, some of these town halls where people are challenging politicians, they're hired by some crazy, like whatever. Make art about it. Make art, write a play, make a film, make a movie, make a documentary. Make a dance piece, write some music, do an album, write some poetry, share it with people, get into your community, get out into your own community, go to the local library if it's still open, go to the town square, go to the general store, go wherever people gather and share your work with them and talk about it and see, maybe not everybody in your community feels the same way, and start a discussion. And that's what it's all about. People coming together, talking, reflecting, considering things and looking at how it affects their lives and their children and their elders and their homes and their futures and their dreams. Talk to people about it, about health insurance, about Social Security, stuff like that. Talk about it from your perspective. I'll talk about it from my perspective. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's all love. It's all us coming together through art. Like there's nothing better than art. Nothing. Everything else is just adversarial. And it leads to this, Nobody wants that. Nobody wants this. People want love. They want this, They want to come together. We want to live together. What's the American dream? Is like we're the most diverse country in the world. That used to be like a badge of honor. We used to love that. And now it seems like we hate that. But the people who hate it, I know that they have personal friends who are black, who are Mexican. They respect the women in their community. Like they do not agree with a lot of things that are happening right now politically. Write something about it. Write a poem and perform it. Go to an open mic. Write a book. Write an essay. Start a podcast. Interview people in your own community. Like, bring it all together. That's what art is for. That's what I want to talk about today. Please subscribe. I'm doing my YouTube stuff now. Please hit the like button. Please consider joining my Patreon. That would be awesome. And that's all I want to say for this particular video, so I'm going to end it right now.